today I am talking about The Strain by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan. This is the first in a 3-book series that serves as a more realistic and scientific approach to justifying vampirism and what might happen if a vampiric plague broke out in the modern day. Our protagonist for the majority of the book is Ephraim Goodweather, or F for short, and he is a member of a specialized division of the Center for Disease Control. And he and his companion Nora are called in when a plane arrives on the tarmac and suddenly goes dark. No one hears anything, all the lights go out, all the blinds on the windows shut. No one knows what happens inside. And because it's pressurized and the plane is off, the amount of time that there's no air circulating, they know that people will die on there if they're not dead already. So it's treated as a biohazard due to how suddenly it occurred, and that is why F and Nora were called in. They find 4 people that are survivors, whereas the rest of them have all died. And only one of the survivors ends up remaining in custody with the in containment and quarantine, and the rest of them end up finding their way out. The bodies go into the morgues throughout New York and stuff like that, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a supernatural approach, but there is an eclipse that occurs roughly around the same time as this all goes on, which helps along what occurs. I'm still not entirely sure why the eclipse had an influence on any of it in the first place, but I think it's just a matter of the fact that it makes things dark during the day when normally it would be, I guess. So aside from Ephraim, you have his soon-to-be ex-wife, who I can't remember her name, and his son, Zach. And he is trapped in a custody battle for his son. More or less, it's more just they both think that he should remain with the other, and it's a bit convoluted, as divorces tend to, and custody battles tend to be. And unfortunately, Ephraim's involvement in what is going on with the bodies from this plane ends up putting this against him, because he ends up missing a court hearing and blah blah blah. I feel for the guy. As someone who is a survivor of sorts from parents who have divorced, I feel for him. We learn really quickly, however, that within the first night or two of the incident on the plane, that these bodies are not as dead as they seem. The bodies in the morgue come back to life and start running around Manhattan and other places of New York where the bodies were placed, and the 4 survivors are slowly transforming into vampires. This is not your typical you consume the blood of vampires and that transforms you. Because it's a more scientific approach, I won't say exactly what it is, because that I feel is the way it was approached in the book is real good. The majority of this book is really just helping to explain to you what makes these vampires different from what is normally seen in fiction, more or less. And because it occurs over the span of about 5 or so days, about a week-ish, it gives you that time to learn about that stuff and to gradually see things fall apart. We also get a few interludes here or there involving the youth of this book's equivalent of an Abraham Van Helsing type figure, whose name I think is actually also Abraham, but he has a surname, I forget his surname, but he runs a pawn shop as a front for his vampire hunting endeavors. And so this guy knows about what's going on, he knows who is the potential perpetrator, and he is the one who helps F and Nora and an exterminator, Fett, to track down the vampire causing it and to potentially eliminate him. This book has a third-person limited perspective But this perspective jumps around between people throughout the entire book, and some of them are one-time people that only exist for that part of the chapter and then are just gone for whatever reason because they either turn or they're killed by vampires, and other ones are persistent figures that I would assume if they didn't die by the end of the book, that they would continue on for at least the second book, if not the third. I appreciate the amount of detail that has gone through in describing the changes that occur. You know, it's not something that would normally be interesting, but because you know a lot of things are going on because of this growing vampire infestation, that it's interesting to see what these weird things are going on. Like with the exterminator, for example, Fett. He originally notices that there's something going on because the rats that normally live in the sewers and underground of New York are coming to the surface and trying to find food and stuff that way. And it's because of that that we learn that many of the vampires have sought refuge underground in those same areas. So I thought it was a very interesting way to approach it. And again, it takes what would otherwise be fantastical and grounds it in a certain degree of realism, which in turn gives it that kind of minor suspense, minor thriller vibe. It's not a huge thriller-esque thing, but I love the fact that they make it seem like it could potentially be a real thing. I have to say my approval for this book is pretty high. Not as high as I think it probably could have been, mostly because sometimes there are parts where I think it dwelled a little too much on some of the non-vampire aspects. I mean, I'm one who wants to see these guys like present throughout the entire book. And they're there in the background, but it's like there are some parts where I'm just like, can we get on with the book already? And it's not like the book drags on. I guess it's maybe just the way those parts were written or something. I'm not 100% certain. But there were a few moments that I didn't vibe with it quite as much. Therefore, it gets 4 stars for me instead of 4.5 or 5. I still really enjoyed it. I still think it's a pretty good book. And especially with the vampire lore that they introduced and expanded on in this book, I look forward to see what else comes up in book number 2, personally. And I don't say this very often, but I might end up watching the series, like the FX series, when I'm done reading these books, because this is interesting stuff. Alright, that was my review on The Strain by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan. I would really love to see what you guys think of the book in the comments below. And with that, I would like to thank you for watching this video today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!